What's up, everybody? Another episode of the RT Machine podcast. Happy to be in studio here today. We have a special guest with us. First of all, introductions. This is Eric, as always. Dino on the board.
Yep.
Special guest today is Bryan Seward from Suntech and KWPA. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm happy you made the trip up here, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to come up and walk around the shop again and see all the cool things.
Yep. It's been a little while.
I love the changes.
Had some of the students up for a tour a few years ago, which we can talk about that day a little bit. It was kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
But Bryan and I work together on a few different fronts now. Bryan is the instructor for the Wood Design and Technology program at Sun Area Technical Institute in New Berlin, PA. My dad and I have shared RT's role on the Occupational Advisory Committee for the past several years. I actually looked up, and you and I have known each other for like 7 years now.
Yep, I think since I started.
And Bryan's also the chairman of KWPA, the Keystone Wood Products Association. We had Steph on not too long ago, who's the executive director. And earlier this month, I learned that I've been voted to be a member of the board. So it looks like we'll be working more closely together now.
Surprise.
But anyway, that's a brief intro about you. But I'll let you take the field here.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is.
Absolutely. So I've been at Suntech now this is my 7th year. I'll be finishing here in the next couple months. And yes, you've been on the board since I started. So I work with Eric and Ron on the Occupational Advisory Committee. So that's like our board of directors, so to say. Each program at a tech school in Pennsylvania has their own committee. And what I like to tell people is you help steer the ship. So with your knowledge of the wood machinery and, being in the wood industry, it brings a lot of knowledge to the board that we find very pertinent. So I've been able to work with Eric and Ron and Cody, all three of the guys, on that for years now. And then, of course, our machinery in our room, we call you guys to come service equipment. And I just had one of your techs down for our wide belt sander, and interestingly enough, you said the wide belt sander episode was super interesting. Well, I really wish I could have stayed there and watched that guy work, because it's like one of those things I thought would be the coolest thing to watch, and probably something really simple that he did that I could do on my own maybe here and there, but we were so busy that he just did his thing, and that machine hasn't run that good since I've started.
No, that's great.
Oh, it was amazing. When he put the first board through there, I was like, is that how that's supposed to work? Really? He's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, it was all out of whack. Well, I was like, great. So yeah, we work together on a lot of fronts. And like you said, soon to be Keystone Wood Products, since you were voted in. Hope that wasn't too much of a surprise for you. Hope somebody at least warned you. I'm not sure. That might be the way we do things there, because I think I kind of just showed up and never left. I don't know if I was officially voted. I think I was. I know I was officially voted as the chairman, but
this guy just won't leave.
Yeah, one day Scott called me. He's like, you should be part of this. And I said, sounds great. And I've been there ever since. So I mean, that's just the way we do things. But no, I've been in school for 7 years. My background would be, I had a landscaping business for about 10 years. Did landscape construction and maintenance. And I mean, where those 10 years go, I couldn't even begin to tell you. It was like the fastest 10 years of my life. And I had a brand new daughter, and I was sick of working nonstop, because it was a grind from March until December. It was just incredible. And it was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So I said, I've got to do something different. So I grew up around woodworking. My dad's been a woodworker all my life. He's done contracting. We built houses together and built furniture. And I've always done this. I just didn't really consider it a career, I guess. And then when I left landscaping, I actually went and worked for a gentleman in Lewisburg that built additions and did a lot of remodeling. And we got into mansions, like multi-million-dollar mansions. And I got to see some of the coolest things anybody could ever ask for, on a job, elevators and TVs that come up out of cabinets and spin around in their kitchen. And I mean, all kinds of cool stuff, and a lot of custom work, a lot of mill work. And I realized real quick that I love the shop work. I love being back in the shop and working on molders and working on wide belt sanders and running stuff through the table saw. And I'd done all that at a smaller scale, but I loved it. So I spent a lot of my nights and weekends working up there, making custom furniture for friends and for myself, and obviously for my daughter. And I was there for, I think, 5 years, and again, went by real fast, but I absolutely loved it. Loved everything there. And he's still my really good friend till this day, and I still work in his shop. In fact, I own a CNC that's in his shop because I don't have a really nice space for a CNC, and he does. So he was nice enough to clear me some space, and now my CNC sits in his shop. So I love when he talks about it. He's like, yeah, our CNC. Like, yeah, we have a really nice CNC. We have a really nice CNC in his shop. But no, I appreciate him letting me use the space. But, I think Steve just turned maybe 70, or maybe not quite 70. But I knew he was getting close to retirement, and I knew he was looking at options of, moving out of the area, and it kind of scared me a little bit. And I think it was 4 different people said, hey, you should be the woodshop teacher at SunTech. And this was in the summer, and I'm like, okay. So after like the
People
4th,
just randomly said that to you?
like people I knew, they're like, you should be the woodshop teacher. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know why they're telling me this. Like, okay. Like, I wasn't leaving my job necessarily, but in the back of my mind, I knew I had to do something. And finally, after like the 4th person that knew me well enough to know I did woodworking said it, I was like, I wonder if there's something to this. Like, am I missing something? Like, they know more than I know. So I looked into it, and sure enough, the teacher was retired or had retired and left, and they were hiring a new teacher before the school year. So like I said, this was in the summertime. Put in my application and had my interview and got the job. And oh man, I can't tell you the first 2 years I would do over again. It was like, you go from all these years of working in industry and working with equipment and working with people directly in jobs, and this is a whole new environment. But it's awesome. Like, I really, really love what I do. And, I know I'm not going to leave now. Like, I am 100% sure I'm going to stay. There's been some rough times and ups and downs with being a teacher, but once we got through COVID and things got better, now I love it. So,
yeah.
So that's how I got to be a teacher. But I mean, I had to laugh because even for like the first 2 years I was teaching, my mom would still say, like, this is my son. He's a teacher. And she said, I just can't believe he's a teacher. It's like, thanks, Mom. Like, that's makes me feel really good about myself.
Did you ever consider that as a career path?
No. And the one thing that made me feel a lot better about it, when I was walking down the hall for my interview, Doug Bertonzetti was my original assistant director I work with. Probably the nicest guy, one of the best guys I've ever worked with in my entire life. And, he's walking down this hall and he's smiling and laughing, trying to make me less stressed out about the interview. And he said, just remember, like 98% of the teachers we hire were never teachers or never intended to be teachers. And he said, it's industry members that just bring their knowledge here and then get to teach it back to kids. Mm-hmm. He said, so we'll make you a teacher. That's not a problem. And 7 years in, they're still trying to make me a teacher. But, I still get to teach what I love to do every day. So, every single day I get to go to a wood shop with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment in it and just work and teach kids how to use it and like get to work on stuff with them side by side. And it's like, how can you beat that? Yeah. Because it's not like we're under pressure to build furniture every day and produce a product or do anything that anyone has expectations other than learning. And the nice part is you make mistakes and you fix them, or you learn how to fix them, or the next day you learn what went wrong and you teach a kid how to do it differently. But there's no like, oh man, how are we going to fix this cabinet for a kitchen? We don't have to worry about that. It's just learning through your mistakes and, fixing problems. But a lot of my days are spent, fixing equipment even. Like, oh man, if you want to find a group of people that are good equipment testers, you bring stuff down there anytime. Those teenagers will show you how things are broken real quick.
They'll test the durability.
They will put it through the ringer in one shot. Like, they are really good at it. But I've become a really good mechanic on the fly. But at the same time, it's all about learning. A lot of these kids don't have exposure to that stuff. So how else are they going to learn? Even if they do it back in a wood shop at their home school, before they come to us, there's still a big difference in what we do.
Oh, yeah.
The home schools are great. The tech schools or the tech programs they do are great. I'm glad they have the wood shop experience. But the reality is those teachers have, those students for 45 minutes, an hour, maybe at the most, every day or every couple of days. So when those huge groups of students come in, 20, 30 kids probably, there's a lot of pressure to get them through a task, mm-hmm. So a lot of it's set up for them. So when they get to me, my big part is learning how to set things up. Like, learning how do you set up a router? How do you set a table saw to what you want? How do you set the blades and, fences and do your layouts and stuff? Because they get a little bit of that at school, but they need to get a lot more when they get to me because that's what they're going to be realistically doing in the field. So, mm-hmm. So that's a huge part of my job, just trying to get a student to understand how you could take a board and break it down into multiple pieces, because somebody handed them the board and said, here, cut it, and that's not happening anymore. Now it's go get the board, figure out how you're going to cut it, lay it out. So there's a lot of differences for what they're used to. but at their age, they're still learning so much, and then they go to a job and it's even more different, just, you take it from a shop level to an industrial level. It's crazy. The differences they run into, like just, like the machine out here, the machines in your showrooms and stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff they're working on. I can only train them so far. Then they've got a lot more to learn. It's a big difference between high school and tech school and the real world. So,
Oh yeah, there's definitely levels to this.
Yep.
My high school woodworking shop. Sorry, Mr. Miller, was a joke. It was like a jigsaw, and that's really all I remember.
I've got to be honest. Like SunTech, we serve 5 school districts. So Shikellamy, Selinsgrove, Mifflinburg, Middleburg, well, Midwest it's considered, and Lewisburg. And I went through Lewisburg, just a couple years ago because I'm not that old. And the old Lewisburg High School. So anybody knows Lewisburg, the old high school is right on Route 15, at Route 15 and 45. And, I love tech classes, but the closest I got to woodworking was like 8th grade. We made like a little wooden bridge. And I remember going through high school and we had like CAD and we had this little robot that would move like a wooden ball around, and it was kind of a laugh. But, I wish we could have had a tech class. And years later, now when I say years later, I mean like recently, someone said, "Oh, didn't you ever take the wood shop?" And I said, "There was no wood shop." And they said, "Oh, when I went there was." I said, "What do you mean?" Here there was a wood shop at Lewisburg High School. They had closed it down. I don't know if it was a size issue, a safety issue, or just no interest. I have no idea. But they built the new Lewisburg High School, and I've been up there multiple times, and they have a really great instructor, and he's really trying to bring woodworking back. And they've got, a small CNC, they've got a laser engraver, they've got some great tools, they've got table saw, bandsaw, everything they should have. And he said, "I want kids just to get the hands-on feel for it so I can send them to you. Like, I'm not looking to turn them into big woodworkers. I just want them to get the experience and enjoy it before they, make a choice where they want to go in their future." And Selinsgrove, they probably have the best wood shop I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's just, I don't want to call it a scaled down version of mine because it's that'd be saying it wrong. But, what they do there is incredible. They have a really big CNC. They have a big planer. They've got very industrial machines, and they do a really good job at teaching kids the skills they need, which I like. I get a lot of Selinsgrove kids now, probably more so than I did when I started. So those two guys are doing a phenomenal job, and they're really good on the tech end of it. Like, they've got kids that are learning SolidWorks that are just phenomenal with it. Kids drawing their own plans and doing the breakdowns of the plans and sending those plans to the CNC to cut their parts. I mean, they're really learning a lot in that little bit of time they're in there. So I really appreciate everything they're doing. Now, the other schools, I think they do a good job. I can't say I've been in most of them, but I try. I try to get in these schools and talk to students. You feel like 180 days is a long time, but once it starts, it's gone before you know it.
I'm sure it's a whirlwind, yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't realize too about SunTech is we're a 1-year program. So you go to Columbia Montour in Bloomsburg, or out State College way, they're like multi-year programs. So you get a student, they come to you for a couple hours, but then they go take their academics. With us, it's 6 hours a day every day for 1 year. So you have 180 days, about 1,000 hours of work time, and that's it. And it happens so fast till you get through the curriculum that you're like, "Oh, I didn't go recruit for next year. I didn't have time to go talk to another teacher. I didn't have time to stop at another school and talk to their students or just get out there and do something fun." It happens so quick. So, but that's our life. It's 180 days at a time, and it's gone before you can blink. So
yeah,
45 to go already. I mean, so it's
wow.
And in the next 45 days, I got to teach students how to apply finishes and hardware, and they've got to build a project for their final. So they're working just as hard as I am, to get it done. So
yeah, I jumped on the website today and I was looking at the course curriculum, and it's a couple pages, and it's where do you start with them? I'm sure you got to start like the basics of wood identification. Do you go through primary processing or logging at all? Where do you start and where?
Where you want to start and where you do start are always different things. I guess you got to also look at the students you're getting. So some students come with a background, some don't. So a lot of students walk in the door and maybe have seen a board before. Maybe have cut a board before, maybe have sanded, but probably didn't. So the basics, some kids will test out of things like measuring. So we'll start with simple things like tool identification, shop safety. Of course, safety is our big one. That takes the first few weeks of school. So safety is huge. So just teaching them not necessarily, what not to do on a table saw, but what not to do in a shop. Like, no swinging boards around, when you're walking through a shop, no laying, don't let junk on the floor people can trip on. So we get through all that. We incorporate measuring at the same time because measuring is a huge struggle, huge struggle. Out of 14 kids this year, I probably have 3 or 4 that really came in with really good measuring skills. And that was about it. Their kids are picking up on it and they're doing great, but it takes time. I've had kids make it all the way through the school year and still struggle really badly with fractions, and that's okay. We work through it. So we operate off what's called a task list. Every program and every tech school in Pennsylvania has a task list. So I think I have like 165 tasks. How I approach them is up to me.
Okay.
So safety, of course, it's broken down into multiple tasks, and then processing boards is a whole another section. Use of equipment, tool identification. I typically start with the machinery. So things that everybody needs to learn, how to run a miter saw, how to run a table saw, how to run a planer. But then at the same time, learning your boards, learning your species, identifying defects in grain and defects in the wood, because, as you guys all know, running a really twisted board through a table saw can be incredibly dangerous, if it binds on you. So just learning about those defects and how to work through them and how to make a nice board out of something that might be pretty ugly or maybe not ugly, you don't know. And then somewhere along the line, right after that starts, I try to get a sawing lesson in on our sawmill. So we have a portable sawmill. I don't want to wait till winter because it gets too cold, but I want to get out there in the fall. So we have some logs that we stocked up, and we get the sawmill set up about, I'd say like October, November. And we go outside and we saw a few thousand board feet of our own. And we have a kiln, so we'll stock the kiln full. Unfortunately, till then, it's getting pretty cold out, so the kiln doesn't dry too fast because it's only a solar kiln. But till spring, now, yesterday and today, we started unloading wood. So once the weather got nice, students go outside, they start checking moisture, start unloading it, going through the stack to see where the moisture levels are at. And we'll use that wood for next year's class, the year after, whatever we have to do. But
Okay.
so it's reducing our amount we have to purchase, which is nice. I'm sure the taxpayers appreciate that. We're cutting back on the amount of money we're spending on lumber, but they learn the basics of running a portable sawmill, and then, of course, learning the basics of operating a kiln. Now, I realize it's not a dry kiln or a heated kiln like you might see in a big operation, but still understanding what's gonna the effects that drying has on the wood. So
Right.
So that's big, and understanding that a board might look great when it comes off the sawmill, but it's not going to look great when you pull it out of the kiln. Sometimes it happens, but we don't get too in depth on like quarter sawing and stuff, but at least we do different types of sawing and working through some pretty ugly lumber sometimes to get some pretty nice stuff out of it. But there's a lot of the kids really get into being able to saw something, bring it back in a couple months and use it. Like they really enjoy that because we get the full circle effect from it. It started off as a log in our back parking lot and goes out the other door as a finished product. So. Mm-hmm. So once we get through sawmilling, then it's a lot of just shop time. We do, I probably don't do theory as much as some teachers. Some of these programs are very in depth on their theory because they're, health related programs, so there's a lot of theory behind it. But mine would be probably like 3 or 4 days in the shop to like a day of theory because there's a lot of hands-on skills that we need. We can learn all about these things, but if they don't know how to do it, it doesn't really make a difference in my opinion. They need to know how to do the processing and the operating and the layout. So we get out in the shop and do a lot of layouts, a lot of practice, and we get a lot of projects. So, we'll get projects brought to us by whether it's a school, local organizations. We try to work with nonprofits mainly. So this year we made 60 birdhouses for like Snyder County Conservation District. So the kids learn, there's just huge amounts of processing to be done when you talk about 60 birdhouses. So, when you practice, you might cut one board and you think you have the skill down pat, but when you have to do 60 of it, that really realizes that you didn't know what to do after one cut, but after 60, you might finally realize you have the skill. So we work through that. There's a lot of processing, a lot of, like I said, learning machinery. Then of course, assembly, we go through all the different types of assembly, whether it's, pocket screws or nail guns or screws, and then once they learn assembly, then we move them into like the wood joinery and the real specific types of assembly, like cabinet doors, dovetail drawers, CNCing. So we've been through our CNCing lesson also. So a lot of jobs now for students are high tech, and they want students that can operate real high tech machines. So I do put them through a CNC lesson that is part of my task list, but some students take it and they run with it. And I encourage those students just to keep working on the CNC. I don't discourage them from working in the shop, but if they're really good at that, I say stick with it. So, when the jobs come along, you have something really great you can do. You have really great skills. So CNCing to me is huge. I just see so many industries bringing in CNCs. I've got students working in masonry shops running CNCs.
Really?
It's the weirdest thing. It's like, what do you do for a living? Well, we pour concrete. But my student runs a CNC at a concrete factory, but he's the guy running it, cutting out wood forms that they're going to use on these concrete pours. But he was the one with the skills to do it. So it makes perfect sense to get him there. So we get through all of that different stuff, and now we're at the point of finishing. So we pretty much learn how to spray finishes on. We don't do a whole lot of brushing by hand like you would at home. It's what you're going to see in industry. Everything we do, we try to tie together with industry. So how is industry finishing cabinets and furniture? Well, they're spraying it because it makes the most sense. So they're learning spraying equipment. They're learning how to clean up their tools, how to do masking and things like that. And then after that's done, we'll do a little more into hardware, and then they're building stuff and taking it home. So by the end of the school year, they'll all be able to go from, sawing their own lumber to assembling some big fancy project they designed, and they designed it on a computer program, and they'll take it out the door with them. So
That's awesome.
I'm sure I'm missing a million things there, but it's a fast 180 days, to get through all those tasks. But so the state has their requirements, but we can add things to it. So, if there's a local industry that comes and says, this is really popular in this area and we have a lot of demand for employees to do it, but you're not teaching it, it's something that I can take to the board and say, should we be doing this? And the board might say, yeah, we can, and we can add as a task. So, to me, the sawmilling was important. It wasn't a task, but, we're in central Pennsylvania. There's a sawmill every mile. Right. So, it didn't make any sense that students weren't learning sawmilling, because they're not going to leave and be a sawyer, but that day, but they could be eventually. It's a good way to get them into that field. So I have a student right now who's working at Bingham and Son Lumber. He loved the sawing. He loved working with the green lumber. He liked working with the kiln, and he learned about the grading the grading courses coming up through NHLA, and he said, I really want to do something like that. So he got a job at Bingham's, and he's working on the green chain, and he's learning how to grade. So he didn't do any of the finishing hardly at all. He'll have very little, time invested in the finishing and assembly and hardware, and he's okay with that because that's what he wants to do for a living. So finding a kid the right path is always a good thing. So he's on the right path, so I'm happy with that. So
great for him.
Absolutely. So
what do graduates of the program normally do next? Is there a pretty standard path after they leave SunTech?
I guess you could say it's a standard. Some programs leaving SunTech, a lot of them will go to college. I've found over the years, very few very few students going to college for my program. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just the industry we're in or the type of students I get, but, your health programs, they're going to college. Some welders will go to college, or, criminal justice kids will go to college, but very few of mine leave and go to college. Now we have opportunities at Penn Tech and Thaddeus Stevens. We have articulation agreements where they come to our programs and they earn credits. So if they go to either one of those schools, they already have some credits towards their degree or towards their graduation. So I have two right now that want to go to Thaddeus Stevens, but one's kind of on the fence. We'll see. But Thaddeus Stevens would be a great option. They are very much like my program. They learn all the ins and outs of furniture making and cabinet making, and working with big machines like molders and like six head molders and shapers and stuff. So they'll learn a lot of the ins and outs of setting those up, cutting their own cutters, so they can come back to this area if they want and be really useful and really valuable and really step into a great job. So I hope those guys do take that opportunity and go.
Okay. Where is that? I've heard you talk about it.
Lancaster.
Okay.
So yeah, Lancaster. We just toured it a month ago, and that really cemented it for a couple of kids. They wanted to go there because they gave us a great tour of the program. We got to see what they do and what they're going to learn in their first year versus their second year. And, they said, I think their rate was like 98% of their students get jobs before they graduate down there. So it's incredible, the amount of people they're getting out the jobs. And I want to say they have like 25 students per class or something like that per year. So it's not a huge number, but they're getting everybody employed, which is great for our industry. So,
right.
But I would say a majority of my students are just going to work. I kind of have to laugh a little bit about that because I think they leave and they hem-haw around and they think they don't really think they could go in the wood industry for some reason. So they'll go get some strange job somewhere else. And then before you know it, I'm getting calls 2 years down the road. Hey, do you remember this student? So like right now I'm getting calls, 3 different people called me, students from 2 years ago, or a year ago. And it's like, good. I'm glad they're realizing that they got all these skills from this program and they're going to come back and use it. So most of them go in industry, is the hope.
Yeah, I remember one kid was there. There's always a student at the advisory meetings.
Yep.
And so he was the student representative at that meeting, and then the next meeting he was there as a representative from Alderfer.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. See, that's the goal. No, it's great to get them into a place right away, and they love it. So the student you're talking about, he loves it. He's at Alderfer, and he couldn't be happier. John was happy to hire him, and he was happy he was there, and he's doing really great. And it's just amazing how some students, from different areas are just so different. So that particular student was from East Juniata area, and I've never had better students in that area. And they're what we call like a secondary school. So we have our 5 primary ones, and then they all have the budgets to send students to us. And there's these 3 or 4, I call them like a secondary, that if we have the open seats, they can come to us. So since I don't always have a huge enrollment, I typically will get students from East Juniata, and they've been some of my best students ever. Very out in the country, farm type kids that are probably working in the garage on their weekend with their dad or their friends, and they come and they're real hard workers. So yeah, he's doing great at Alderfer. And then last year, I think both the students I had at advisor meetings are both doing really well. Like one, I believe, is the one at the concrete company. We're running the CNC. He absolutely loves it. They called me about helping him with some training last year, and because they, just trying to do different things that were even out of their league a little bit, and trying to work them through some different things they wanted to do. So one of these days, hopefully I can help them out with that.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet, but no, we've always got great employers looking for people. And we all know that now more than ever, like we talked about, like employers are just knocking down the doors of schools looking for new employees, and our school is no different. So we, talking about all these students working, but I probably didn't explain. So we have the co-op program. So I always say right after Christmas is when we start sending students out, but it can happen before Christmas. But they get a percentage of their task list done. If they've got pretty good attendance and pretty good grades, they can go be employed. So right now I've got 2 students that are out. They've been out for a couple of weeks, and I've got 3 more leaving to work. So they'll go to work 4 days a week. They'll go learn on the job. They can complete some of their tasks on the job, so they don't have to do it in the classroom, which is great because they're learning on the job and they're getting paid to do it. So most of these aren't internships. When you talk about internship, a lot of times they're unpaid. These are true paid, positions these students are working at. So after we finish some other tasks and the big test we take in April with the students, they can go out full time. So come like the end of April, I won't see those students for the whole month of May. They'll work 5 days a week. They'll check in with me every now and then, make sure everything's okay, and say, hey, is there anything you need from me? And I say, nope, as long as you're working, just keep working. So come graduation, then they and the employer get to decide if they're going to stay or not. And I think in all the years I've been there, I've only had one time where the employer said, nope, we're going to part ways. And for the most part, they said, nope, we're going to keep them. And as long as they'll stay, we want them to work because, they need people. So our co-op program is very, very successful. I think we've had upwards of 90 to 100 kids out in our best years.
That's great.
So for having only about 300 kids in our entire student body, a third of them out working, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, and that's all, of course, all different industries, but mine, I've had lower enrollment. So this year I'm doing great, better enrollment, more kids out. I hope that's a good sign for things to come in the wood industry because we need it badly.
For sure.
In every level.
Makes your shop a little bit quiet, but at the end of the day, the point is to get them as contributing members of society. So
I call it like a double-edged sword. We have all these projects we take on, and you start off with 14 students, and now you're down to like 9, and it's like, I don't have a lot of kids left to get these things done that we committed to, or the caliber kid sometimes when they leave. Like some of these kids that are leaving are great. I mean, they're unbelievably talented students because, of course, your best ones are typically the first ones out the door. Right. They're bright, they're great, they're hard workers, and they're like, oh man, like I don't want them to leave because they're so good, but then they do leave. But it's like you got to go work. Mm-hmm. Like that's the best option you have right now to go work. But like the 2 students leaving soon, they both are the ones that want to go to Thaddeus, and they were really hesitant. I was like, you can go work, and you can still go to Thaddeus this fall. I said, just be transparent with the employer, tell them what your hopes are, and I'm sure the employer will love that you're going to come back with even more skills than you left with.
Sure.
And the employer was great. He's like, yep, that's great. If they go to school, we'll give them a summer job, and when they come back, there'll be a job for them. So it's been really successful, and I'm loving it. Like, I always sat back and watched all these other teachers send 10 kids on a co-op, and I was like, oh man, so jealous. Like, that's great. They're getting kids out, and finally this year it's coming around for me. So hopefully next year we'll do even better. So
What's the average class size? 14's pretty good for you, I think.
14's awesome for me. Yeah. If you remember all the meetings you've been to, I don't think I've ever told you guys 14. So started off around 7 my first year, 7 or 8, and it always kind of flirts around 10. So that's the number I'm always around, like right around 10. So 14 is a good number. I can take up to 18 kids.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when does it get too hard to manage with all those kids in the shop?
14. And it's not. I guess it's probably more of a me problem than a shop problem. You got 14 students that are coming to you like, with questions and, needing to know something or help with something, or a machine's broken. It gets to be a lot when you're one person, but 10 was always a wonderful number. Like, I could work with 10 really well, but I'm really happy with the 14 I have this year. Probably 14 of the best students I've ever had, honestly. As a group, they're phenomenal. They're well behaved. They work hard. They do what they're told, and they're trying every day, which is great too. So I really have no major complaints about this year, other than just there's not enough of me sometimes to go around for 14, which is the sad part. Like, I hope these kids, hope these students realize that, they might have to wait for me, but I try to be there for every one of them, which is nice too, because you get into like a class of 30 or 40 kids, in an academic setting, you don't really have time to, in a day to spend the time you want with one student.
Oh yeah.
So with, 10 to 14, they get a lot more one-on-one time, and sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but I hope they realize that they probably get a lot more time with me than they do with most of their instructors that they've dealt with over the years. So that makes it really nice too, that I'm not a humongous class, but would I like to have 18? Absolutely. But you also look out in the shop and realize there's, one big table saw, and there's one joiner, and there's one planer, and there's one wide belt sander, and you're like, what are all 18 of these kids going to do when, we're trying to teach the wide belt sander? I guess they're all going to stand in one big long line like a Knoebels ride or something. But this year was a real big learning opportunity for me to say, okay, I don't have 10 kids now, I have 14, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It's a big difference for me. Like, what do I do? So I learned to break them up. Okay, you guys are going to work on this. You guys are going to work on that. You guys work with wide belt sander. You guys are going to learn this, whatever task it may be. And I've learned to break them up a lot better. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're learning. But having really good help at the school helps too. So, I've got an aide that comes to my program every day. I give him a hard time, and he'll probably listen to this podcast and think I'm going to talk bad about him, but I won't. He's a good guy. So I'm glad he's there. Because if somebody didn't come in and relieve me every now and then and like help out with the kids, I'd probably go nuts. Because it's a lot, but he is so helpful. It's funny because he'll bring in his own projects. He'll be like, hey, I got this little end table at my house and it needs fixing up. I need to fix it up. It looks pretty bad. Can I bring it in? Yeah. And he used to ask. Now he just brings things in. Like I just walk in the shop and be like, hey, whose table is that? Oh, it's Mr. Reader's. Oh, okay. Who's this? Oh, that's his. So it's nice. He'll bring things in, but then he'll his job is to work with students that need the most help. So he'll pick some of those guys out that, are maybe struggling a little more or not picking up as well on some of the tasks, and he'll take them and push them off to like a different spot with him, and he'll say, okay, let's work on this, and he'll work with them really closely, and let's take this table apart and let's sand it. And they might not be the highest tasks, but he's really helping them learn, some of the simplest things and learn it really well, and things that they can become employed at, even just running things through the sander really well.
Sure.
So he does a great job at it. So I got to give him credit, but unfortunately he won't be my aide next year. So that's the most disappointing news of the day.
Oh, okay.
So he's going to be a teacher next year. So
wow.
I know. Well, he didn't want to be an aide forever, and I don't blame him. So, but no, it's nice having the extra help. And, a lot of academic schools, they might have one aide for, a few hundred kids. Mm-hmm. We have like one aide per program almost, or I'm sorry, one aide per 2 programs pretty much. So we've got a lot of help, which is great. So, and we're not a huge school. That really makes a big difference too. So
I'll tell you what, man, it feels like it when I'm, I go to the school at max twice a year normally. Mm-hmm. I go in those hallways and I always forget where the wood program is. I'm getting lost.
Yep.
But it's, what is it, 15 programs at the school?
19.
19?
19,
Okay.
Yep. And we have 2 buildings. So when you show up, you're dealing with our main campus, and we still have our west campus, which has culinary, diesel, and soon to be mechatronics and electrical are moving over there. So we are. I don't want to say we're necessarily expanding because the programs have been there, but they're moving over to a different location and expanding within their program, I guess, because mechatronics is huge now. Like I was talking to you before we started the podcast about how some of those students are unbelievable and like they would be great, for like technicians for what you guys do with working on big giant machinery and hydraulics and, robotics and pneumatics. And so that's an awesome program too. But yeah, 19 programs. So I'm as far away as you can possibly get from the office without going to the other campus. So that's how I try telling people, if you think you couldn't go any further, just go a little bit further and you'll be there. So
Right.
It doesn't feel like a huge school till you have to walk end to end every single day. Then it's like, oh, this is a lot bigger than I thought. So, but no, 19 programs, and we do everything there. And it's cool too because you get to work with other programs. So, I know I do woodworking, but I work with the welding teacher a lot. He's got some really cool stuff like laser cutters and benders, and of course they weld everything. So like we've done some projects where we work together, and he's cut out parts for me for other projects. And of course I work with the carpentry teacher when we can. He's got a really, really difficult curriculum, I think. So when I can, I work with him. I've made some custom moldings for him, and we made some parts and pieces for stairs for him, and in their own little projects. And masonry and I've worked together a lot. So masonry will make benches for clients, and we'll make all the wood parts for it, engrave them, custom engrave them. So we try to work with each other as much as we can, which is fun. So that makes your day a lot more enjoyable when you're just doing something real fun, working with another program.
Right.
So,
Right. You're not just stuck in the room and you're the only adult in there.
and it's neat for the students too, because they realize, hey, we can work with other people. Like that's cool. Yeah, and then it's something different for them too. So yeah, we make some neat things. I feel like our program gets, I don't want to say a lot dumped on it, but I feel like we take on a lot around at school because
I'm sure.
broken chairs, broken tables. Someone's always wheeling something in saying, oh, this broke. It's like, oh man, it's always fixing something. But, at the same time, our HVAC program, they help fix the, pipes and stuff in the building. Electrical, you'll see the electrical kids going down the hallway in a scissor lift. It's like, where are they going? And here they're in another room putting a new receptacle up in the ceiling or a new light switch or something. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's real live work.
It's a school full of maintenance staff.
Technically, that's what we are. We're like a big maintenance center at the end of the day, like training maintenance workers. So, but no, we have a great school. Like I said, about 300 kids. We're probably the highest our enrollment's ever been over the last few years. I don't know how far back they tracked it. The school opened up, I think they said it was late 60s, early 70s, and they didn't really start tracking numbers till the 80s. But we're at the highest enrollment it's been in a lot of years, if ever. So that shows you a lot about how things are changing with going to college versus going to tech school. So that's a good change because we need more people to work.
Oh, definitely.
It's terrible.
The trade programs are starving for good help.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't bring in enough kids to satisfy what needs to be filled right now as far as the work gap. We're nowhere close. We could churn out 300 kids a week, probably not even be close. I feel like some days. So, but the opportunities are huge. I mean, I've heard insane numbers that, kids have left programs that started at upwards of $90,000 in some programs.
Without necessarily having $90,000 in debt.
Exactly. No debt. And, then the employers will say things like, we don't even care if you're trained, just as long as you're interested in the field, we'll train you. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Maybe I'll go be an HVAC tech, maybe that's what I need to do. But, like the ones that are leaving my program this year, they're making upwards of $18 an hour, and I don't know about you guys, but it took a long time to make $18 an hour, doing what I did, just, going through the motions of working in the field, but for walking out the door with very minimal training, $18 an hour is great. So these kids are really happy. A lot of them are leaving like Wise Markets, making next to nothing compared to what they're making now, and they're loving it. They think it's great. So they're excited, because the first thing they always tell me, it's never what I'm going to do at this job, or, it's always, I added it up. This is going to be my first paycheck. It's always the first thing I hear. I sat down, did the math. I'm going to make this much. And that's exciting because they get excited about it. So, sure. But yeah, we couldn't produce enough kids if we tried. It's just not enough room and not enough time. And the demand is huge. So, so we're doing our best. So
that's great. It's good for the future of the country. I think that
let's hope
trade schools are doing well.
Let's hope. Let's hope it only gets better from here. So
let's touch on KWPA just a little bit. I can read the mission statement quick, but I'd like you to pick it apart for me, because I think some associations have almost an identity problem. Like they have a really fancy mission statement, but then what do you actually do?
Oh, we'll find out here in a second. This might be news to me too.
Oh, I wondered. Keystone Wood Products Association strives to strengthen and expand the base of lumber and wood products manufacturers in the central Pennsylvania region in order to maintain and enhance the industry's competitive position in today's global economy. Blah, 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 blah. Support the industry via education, workforce development, and promotion. I skipped over all the stuff about the hardwood
of course,
utilization groups and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot of words.
It is.
So
very fancy words, but I will tell you that everything it says, KWPA is very much about. The marketing, the outreach, the education, every part of it. I mean, they do a phenomenal job with just telling people about what hardwoods are and what they do for the industry and how great they are, and all these amazing companies right here in Central PA that we work with. And now we've got all these different the hugs working together, and now they're on a national level, with advertising to say wood's way better than bamboo, or wood's better than whatever, plastics or metal. They're doing the Real American Wood Real American Hardwood campaign, which is huge. Getting people to buy real wood furniture again. It's awesome. But yeah, they do everything about that. So my involvement began not my first year at school. It was one of my first couple years at school. Apparently they had been involved prior to my time being there with the former instructor. And at that point, I didn't realize KWPA was fairly new. I had no idea. I thought they'd been around. But when in the early days, they got involved with SunTech and the prior instructor. And my director at the time said, I don't know what we were talking about. She goes, have you ever reached out to KWPA? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, oh, well, you should reach out to them. And I don't know if she had the contact information, but anyhow, I called, and the chairman at the time was Scott Seiler, and great guy. And he was talking to me, and I still had no idea what they did or what we were going to do. Like, I had no clue. And he's like, do you want to join a board meeting? Sure. So I joined the board meetings, and there was and still is a lot of things that go over my head. There's a lot of talk about, sales and, marketing and, lumber sales, domestic versus, overseas. And those guys are very, very great with that information, and that's way over my head. But as far as the local stuff goes, I've done a lot with it over the years as far as promoting and working with Steph to go to events and make things. And, they do the Little League World Series, and we go to all these really great, local, children's museums events and stuff, just to get the name out there. And we like to get products in there that, show why wood is good. And then of course they work on all different levels. Like I mentioned, the NHLA training for grading, that, they brought that to our school to talk to our students, and, they're working with helping students with funding on it. They have so much money to allocate and help with kids that want to take that and, pay their tuition for it. So they're just doing all kinds of great stuff. And of course we work with SFI and, doing logger training, and, there's such amazing things that they do, and it keeps me busy. And, and I, it's a part-time volunteer thing for me, but Steph is always busy. There's always something to be part of, and, green initiative, this, and, going to a conference for that. And she's just busy every day, and it's great stuff too, coming out of it. We work a lot with, state initiatives and state programs and the Woodmobile, and, just for me, it's, I guess I shouldn't say I'm not concerned with the big things that, like the hardwood sales overseas and, what's going to and from the U.S. Like, I understand that, but for me, it's more about the local reaching out to, get out there why hardwoods are great, and what our industry does, and working in the industry. Like, I love that, they help us, promote the jobs that are out there and get students and people involved in industry, because we need it really badly. So yeah, I think everything in the mission statement makes sense. It just probably sounds way more official than I said it. So
yours is more on my level.
Well,
I can understand.
Sometimes it's hard to explain to people because it's not for everybody. But at the same time, you could go to an event like Gilson Summer Snow Day and have no idea what we do or what we're about, and Steph can stand there and explain it, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, again, that person might not care at all about, wood that's going to another country and being sawn down in the forest, but it's like, here's the cool things being done with it, and here's the cool things that are made, and here's the cool businesses right in our backyard. Yesterday I invited Steph along to a field trip. We went to see a stave and barrel cooperage, and I thought, what a good opportunity. So I invited her along. She didn't know it existed, and first thing she did was present some information about KWPA to the guys. So it's like, hey, you might want to come check us out and become a member, and it all makes sense. Like be part of it and see what we do and see how we can help you. And maybe he'll need some training in the future, or maybe he needs a grader, or he's got open positions and we can work with him to help him too. So they do really great things, and we really get our name out there. And since bringing Steph on, that's made a world of difference. She's
amazing.
Yeah. So her background is in marketing, and it shows, and she's doing a great job with getting our name out there, and a lot of the great signage we put up. We've done some cool projects over the last couple of years where we've built wood signs for like Ryder Park up in I guess it's Warrensville area, and she did all the graphics for it and had it all printed. It's phenomenal. It's because it's cool. It's people are hiking through this park and they're reading signs about carbon storage in trees, and different species of trees, and the hardwood industry itself. It's cool. They get to read all the stuff that she puts on those signs, and it just helps get it out there about why wood's a good thing, because people have really moved away from buying real wood, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm a little more blunt about it. I'm like, bamboo sucks, so just don't buy bamboo and don't buy plastics. I'm okay with that.
It's a truly renewable resource.
It is.
Right in your backyard. So
I mean, I always tell my kids, you can't walk out the door no matter where you live around here and not see a tree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the kids that live in downtown Sunbury, you walk out your door, there's a tree somewhere.
yeah, it's literally the history of this state.
Exactly.
It's in the name.
Penn's Woods, you got it. Yep. What I really enjoy is taking students on a field trip to the Lumber Museum, and some of those students have never left, Northumberland County or something, or Sunbury. They see trees, but then you drive up, you get north of Williamsport, you get up into like, Trout Run and, Tioga County and stuff. And it's like, they're like, wow, like we didn't expect this. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what Pennsylvania is about right here. This is what's really driving a huge part of our economy. And that's what drives KWPA, along with the other hugs, is how important trees are to this state. So, and Steph would not be happy if I didn't mention that right now there's a contest through the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce. You have to go on there. I call it Twitter, but it's X, and you got to vote. So right now there's a voting opportunity, and it's what coolest things made in PA. And right now we're in the bracket. We're up against natural gas. So everybody that's got an X account has to go and say why, vote for wood, because we're way better than natural gas right now. So
Absolutely.
that's right. So
We'll put that link in the description.
the sad part is most of us have to go and sign up for X accounts because we're all a little old fashioned. We still have Facebook. So I don't know if they knew the crowd they were reaching out to with to only putting it on Twitter, but
Yeah.
it wasn't me.
I have to figure out my Twitter password.
Well, that's what Stephanie just talked about today. She's like, I had an account like 10 years ago. I said, I might have one, but if I do, I don't even know how to get into it. So I struggle enough with Facebook, let alone Twitter. But no, they do a phenomenal job. And I do enjoy being part of the organization a lot. Like, I love it. There's some unbelievable networking opportunities. We do our annual meetings, and there's always something going on. Like, we have our baseball game we go to every year up at the Crosscutters, and I've met so many people, virtually all the connections I've made for like field trips and, employment opportunities for kids, most of them have come through KWPA, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And as far as being a teacher at a school, they've done huge things for my program. So I'll never forget one of the first years when I met Scott. He called me and he said, hey, we've got some money we want to spend on education, and can you spend it? Like, well, yeah, of course I can spend money. I was a little I was confused. Nobody ever called me and said, hey, we want to donate some money. And so a lot of that went towards the kiln, the sawmill project, equipment, just hand tools for that project. And then they've done all kinds of great stuff for my students. They've helped put money towards other machines. They help pay for our laser engraver, which is probably the hardest used machine in our class. But, but then at the same time, we want to give back to them. So they got us a laser engraver, and we produced, I forget how many signs now for Little League World Series. They're all laser engraved, so we try to do, as much as we can to give back to them, thank them for all the stuff they're doing, but at the same time, train kids to do all the cool things that can get them employed in the industry, which is what they're helping to promote. So, so it's a nice full circle thing with them, and it's a great relationship, but, being the chairman, definitely been an interesting position. So I don't want to say I'm excited to leave, but I'm really happy when I can pass it off to the next guy, because it's a lot of responsibility of a job that doesn't, pay much.
When is your term up?
I think this fall, I believe. if I find out, I'll probably be counting down the days. I don't know if Steph will be. She might be a little disappointed, but that's okay. I told her, I said, when, I've got other things I need to do in the future, and I've got to step back and, prioritize what's important in my future. And I know the next year is going to be really busy for me, so I'm going to be looking forward to just taking some time out, but still being a board member. Like, it's really important to me to be a board member as long as they'll let me stay there. Because, like, again, the connections, but the knowledge, some of those guys on the board have been, in the wood business, lumber industry their entire lives.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of experience in that.
Yeah, like I think like Cam Coons, like that guy is amazing. Like the knowledge he has, he's worked with my kids on tree identification and lumber identification, and he's probably forgotten more in his lifetime than I know at this point. So like I just wish I had half of what he knows, in my head. But that's something Steph and I always joke about. She said, I didn't know anything about lumber till I started with this organization, so I'm still learning. It's like, I kind of am too. Like, I know how to make furniture, but it doesn't mean I know enough about lumber. But yeah, great guys involved. And, of course, Keith from Lewis Lumber, we were just talking about Keith, and he's been great. I had a student work there for a while too. And we've done some tours up there when they had their manufacturing days and stuff. But it's just done some really cool things for us too. So, but, now I get to go out and, do fun things too. Like we go to the Children's Museum. Last year we went there. We took two CNCs along, two little portable CNCs, and set them up with little blocks of wood, and we let little kids come up and they could draw whatever they wanted with their finger.
Oh yeah.
And then it was CNC'd out for them. We'd hand it to them. Like, you would have swore we were giving these kids like blocks of gold. Mm-hmm. They were so excited. I don't know how many blocks I brought along, but we went through almost all of them. I think I brought a couple hundred along, and we chugged through them all. So that was really exciting. So I like doing stuff like that. So no, great organization. So I'm happy to be part of it, and I'm gonna be really happy just to be a board member and kind of step back and watch somebody else do all the hard stuff. So
yeah, we're excited to get involved on our end too. We feel almost out of place when we go to the meetings, because I think we're the only machine company there,
Yep.
from what I remember. Sitting around a bunch of career loggers and sawmillers and stuff. But
well, just like my board, I look through my board and you see, people from all these wood industries, and then I see RT Machine, and I'm like, I first thought that's odd, but it makes perfect sense, and it makes perfect sense for KWPA. Like, you guys are just as much a part of this industry as the guys that are, producing the product, producing the boards, because you're the ones keeping them up and running. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, and vice versa. This is our client base, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And, recruitment for them is almost as important to me as recruitment for me, probably more so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a perfect fit. So I was excited that, when she sent the list of potential candidates for the new board position, I was like, oh man, not only do I know one, I know them all. Like, that's great. Like, I was really excited to see like you and Levi, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. These are guys I work with. Like, that's phenomenal. So, and we need to get, a younger group in too, because, some of these guys they're going to be getting closer to retirement age someday. Not that they're all that close, but, bringing in younger generations. I guess that's what Scott told me. Oh, we need to get a younger guy in. I don't know if I was that much younger, but, young enough, I guess, that it made sense. And like with you coming on, and Levi being I'm not sure what his official title is at Aldifer, but he's now running Aldifer. I don't know if he's like the GM or, that's great. So it's going to be a really good group of guys. So
yeah, hopefully we make a difference here.
Well, we'll find out, and I think our meeting's coming up soon. Steph usually reminds me with a couple days advance, and
yeah, I think we're about a month out.
You're gonna love it. I come on there and I talk like I'm important, and I set the whole thing up, but in reality, Steph did it all, and then I just get to take all the praise for it. Like, great job, Bryan. Thanks. I really worked hard at this. I stayed up all last 5 minutes reading this minutes before I had to read them to you guys. Or poor Steph's probably up the night before at 10 o'clock doing it. I feel bad for her. But what's great though is I can't tell you how many times I've had to talk to her late at night about something, or a Saturday or a Sunday or early in the morning. Hey, I had this came up. I need to talk to you right away. And it's nice because we can do that, and work with her, and she's been great about it. And I always said, like, it's the easiest position I ever had to be a boss, because no one has to check up on her. She does a phenomenal job and just does it. Like, no one has to go knock on her door and say, Steph, are you actually working? Or follow her around, and she does such a great job at it. So, and for you guys, I think if you like throw a stone out your back door, you can probably hit her house. So if you ever need anything, just yell down the street and say, Steph, come down here. We got to talk to you. So
the episode that she was on, we did it on a Friday, and we invited her to come for lunch before we did the podcast. And she goes, where are we getting lunch from? Oh, that's right by my house. I'll pick it up on the way in.
Well, how far could it be? I mean, it couldn't have been She probably had to go out of her way to get it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like she's that close. I almost drove through the field, drove through the carnival grounds to get here. But no, she does a great job getting around and, you know, meeting people and connecting with people. And sometimes I feel bad because she will rattle off names and things that are going on. And I go, yeah, yeah. Like sometimes I'm like, I really don't know. Like, oh yeah, I must know that person. But she's so much better at it than me. That's probably why she does that job and I don't. That's because she's a perfect fit for it. I'm not.
No, she's humble about it too.
Yes, very much so.
Very hard worker and a humble person. You know,
we're as an organization, we're incredibly lucky to have her. And, you know, there's a lot of really great people involved too, but we can all agree that we're lucky to have her and be part of it. And we could easily lose her to somebody else. She's so talented, but we're lucky she stays with us and she truly loves what she does, which is the difference. You know, for her, it's about enjoying what you do. And, you know, she doesn't want to leave the organization because she really feels strongly about our mission and everything we do. So that's good.
Yeah.
We're on the right path. So,
ever since she was just in there in a marketing role, she's really brought the association into the 21st century.
Oh, you bet. Like I came on about the same time as her, and I didn't know much about what we were doing or what we were doing it for. I just knew we had these meetings, and now it's completely different. Now at least it all makes sense to me now, and we're really marketing well and getting out there and telling people what we do. And like I said, it's not for everybody, but for the people that matter, they get it and they understand. And she's doing a great job. You know, talking with new members and you're trying to get new members. And sometimes it's difficult to convince people to be members, but she's doing a great job. She's getting out there and getting her name out there. And, you know, we've picked up a few new members recently and it's all thanks to her, of course. So she's doing a good job at it. So, but it's to the point now actually where we need two staffs. Like it's actually getting that busy. You know, she's opened up so many doors and the networking has gone so crazy that we could actually use a second one of her. And we have off and on had an educational outreach person that will go into the schools and talk with students and, you know, events like that. And we do still have somebody, but she moved a little bit out of our area, you know, and she's pretty busy. So she can't always make it to events and she does a great job when she's there. Amanda's our educational outreach person, but we could use another Amanda. Mm-hmm. Like we're that busy that, you know, Steph can't make it to everything. We're turning things away. We're turning events down. We're turning, you know, away from things that we want to go do. And, you know, even our board members, they try to come and help and I try to go where I can, but you know, there's only so much time in a day for all of us. So,
right.
So we need another person. So, you know, for all the people listening to this podcast, we could use an educational outreach person. So somebody that's retired, knows the wood industry would be perfect. You know, someone that just wants to work here and there. That's what we need. Someone who wants to go and talk with kids sometimes. And that's one of my favorite things to do. I don't know about you guys, but going to like fourth graders and saying, is it good to cut down trees? And they'll go, no. And then you can tell them why it's okay to cut down trees because somebody at some point taught them it's bad. Mm-hmm. I love that. And our last chairman used to say the same thing. His wife was I think a fourth grade teacher. And he'd say every year, I can't wait to go over and work with their class to tell them why it's okay to cut down trees because they've been taught all their life, don't cut down trees, but it's okay. And we teach them why. So I feel the same way because my daughter was told the same thing. Mm-hmm. Oh no, it's bad to cut down trees. Well, sometimes, but only for certain instances. You know, most of the time it's okay. You know, and like you said, it's our biggest renewable resource. Mm-hmm. I mean, we grow, you know, 2 for every 1 we cut down. So it's a, you know, it's not a bad thing if it's done right and it's managed correctly. But then again, trying to explain to a fourth grader what, you know, forestry management is like, you know,
right.
It's not exactly like, let's sit down, son, and talk about forestry management. Do you want to hear a little more about it? They're like, you're killing the birds' homes. And it's like, wow, forestry management. So we're not always on the same level, but Steph does a great job teaching them that though. So
you have a great way to combat that question too. Did you see the video that came out recently that Dwight Lewis Lumber Company posted, which is the sawmill connection to Lewis Lumber Company. They recently put in a slash fence deal, and
that's cool.
Which for people that don't know, instead of putting up like after they log a certain part of their land. They want to let it regenerate and try to keep wildlife out for a period so that the trees can regenerate. So instead of putting a physical fence up, they'll just put basically a brush pile all the way around it, you know, logs and brush to keep the deer out and everything. And they caught, I think, 3 or 4 bear cubs just hanging out in a pretty wild.
They were like half asleep, just sitting on this big wall of logs, and it was like chilling out,
filming them.
That was cool though. That was a really cool video. Yeah, that slash wall I find that incredibly interesting. Mm-hmm. Like I'm really excited to see what it does, in the future, because obviously it's going to take some time to, run it through its paces and see the results, because, growth of trees and new trees takes time. But I think it's a really unique, good opportunity. And of course, Keystone Wood Products is working with them too. They did a new video. I don't think it's released yet. But our educational outreach, Amanda, she just went and did some interviewing, and they did some videos. So you'll be seeing that one of these days, hopefully real soon. And I'm sure I know the date when it's released, but again, Steph knows all that.
I saw it.
Pretend.
I don't know if it's public, but
I don't think it was yet. I think it was still in the editing phases when I saw it, but maybe I'm wrong. But great video though.
Chain where Cam Coons got mad because they zoomed in on I forget what I think they zoomed in on an oak tree and they said cherry at the.
They were talking about cherry. Yep, but he pointed that out. But that's what I love about Cam. Like, I'm like watching this video, and I mean I probably would have seen it if I paid more attention, but I like just watching the video and I'm just going with it, like watching a movie, and only Cam would be like, "That's not a cherry log or not a cherry stump," and I'm like, "Oh, well, he's absolutely right." But I wasn't paying enough attention. But again, makes me laugh. We get these emails, and Steph will say, "Can you guys just go over this?" And I'm like, "Looks great." And then like 3 people email back, "Oh, Steph, there's this." I'm like, "Oh man, I look like an idiot." Like, I'm just so excited to see it, and I kind of don't pay attention to maybe some of the stuff other people do, but. No, that was a cool video. I mean, I think that's a really cool project, and I would love to take students there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping maybe that's something we'll do in the next couple of years. My biggest challenge I love all these cool things, but again, we only have so much time in a year to go on cool field trips. So I've been really working at like, what should we do next year that we didn't do this year? And maybe we'll not do this next year. We'll do this instead. So maybe the slash wall will come up one of these days, but that would be cool to go see. We were able to go up to Lycoming County to their conservation district building, and they had the physical fence built, and students were able to go up and see, outside the fence, how everything was pretty barren and eaten down by the deer. And right at the fence, it was as green as can be and growing up 6 feet high, and you couldn't see through, 5 feet deep. And it was a really neat visual for them to see the difference it makes, of keeping wildlife out, or not all wildlife, but deer primarily for the regeneration purposes. But that was a really cool experience, being able to walk through their walking trail and stuff and see it. So I've moved away from just factory field trips and trying to get into more of the, where the benefits of, let's go see some of these cool things in our industry. So, but I love the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum too. That's another great one. Man, that's fun to go up there. So if you guys haven't been up lately or ever been up there, you should go see it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've not, and I'll have to get up there for sure.
I'll have to give you the name of that restaurant we ate at. I'll think about, what was that called? What made me laugh is it was this, like, of course I've never heard of any restaurants around the Lumber Museum. And this one student says, "Oh, we should eat at," and he names this place. And I said, "Where's that?" He said, "Well, it's right up there. I've been up there." And I said, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Oh, they have and he named the burger, and he's like naming I was like, wow, it must have been really good. Like he's naming his burger and he's naming the restaurant. Well, so we end up eating there. That burger was the size of a to-go container.
Oh yeah.
It was like 3/4 pound of burger or something. It was like, you could have fed like 4 people from that thing. So if you go, so there you go. If you guys go up, you got to eat there. I wish I knew the name of it, but I'll think of it one of these days. But yeah, we had a good laugh this year. We ate like kings. Although nobody wanted to go on a field trip after we're done eating though, so it was hard to leave their conference room, walk around their grounds after that meal. But no, the slash wall's on my list. That's for sure. That's a really cool thing.
It is. We'll make sure to promote that when it comes out.
Oh, absolutely.
On our social media.
I find that so interesting, and I try to tell my wife about stuff like that, and I'm sure she's bored to death. And I'm like, the slash wall. But she saw the bear cub, so that was exciting to her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if this is it, but the Permastone Inn.
There it is.
There it is. Questions on Google is, how big is your pizza? Don't know, but the cheeseburger is huge.
The TIG, T-I-G, the TIG, if I remember correctly, was the name of that burger. When that kid opened up that container, I about fell over. I was like, there's no way. I think he took it home and ate it that night, too. It was unbelievable. We took, these kids are all running around this conference room taking pictures of each other's food because they were blown away.
It's funny.
It was unbelievable. It was. What we did find out though was, if 15 of us went or 16 of us went, we could have ordered 8 meals and just shared. But we ordered 16 meals and everybody's opening up their container and like, wow. In fact, when I called to order it, the lady said to me, "Do you know how big our portions are?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was warned." She's like, "Okay, are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How bad could this be?" Like. And when they brought it back, I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. Like, wow. So anybody up in the Permastone Inn, you said? Permastone Inn area in, what's the town considered up there? I forget.
Gailton.
Gailton. Yeah, if you're up there, tell them we sent you, and they can send the kick back to me down at Suntech. I don't mind.
This podcast episode brought to you by Permastone.
They just don't know it yet.
All right,
Yeah.
Brian. Well, we should wrap up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So, in closing, what should we say? If you're in the local area and you know of a young person who might be interested in woodworking,
Absolutely.
tell them to look up SunTech.
So SunTech stands for Snyder Union Northumberland. So, we have Snyder County, Northumberland County, Union County now. Not all Northumberland County, but Shikellamy, and of course, like I said, Midwest, Middleburg area, Selinsgrove, Lewisburg, and Mifflinburg. Did I miss any? Yeah, I think I got them all there. But yeah, anybody looking, so we typically only have high school seniors, sometimes juniors, but mostly only seniors. So we've got to get more kids involved in this industry. So that's my goal. So that's why I try to recruit every year, but it's been difficult. So if this helps recruit, I'll take it. Anything that helps, that's what I'm there for. My boss said, "Oh, you're going to go talk about the school in a podcast?" Absolutely. I was like, "Yep, that's right." So I'm going to go promote the school. So, but thank you guys so much for having me. This is I've never been invited to a podcast, so I hope I don't get too many requests for autograph on my home. My wife will probably be the only one sarcastically ask me for an autograph later.
Go
but
Hollywood, become a content creator.
She still wants to know how to find this podcast. I said www.podcast.com. She doesn't believe me. So
I'll send you the link.
She's gonna find it. Even if I don't give it, she'll find it. I'll send it to her because she's gonna find it. She's a smart lady. So,
and woodworkers in the region, call up KWPA, join the organization, get involved, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to know more about it and have explained better than I did, call it, and Steph will get back to you. And she'll explain it so much better than I just probably did. I probably butchered it, and she's probably gonna listen to this podcast, going, "Oh man, our membership's gonna go down now." But no, it's a great organization, and so now that you're a member, we'll hopefully see you at the baseball game this summer. So we have the Crosscutters game coming up. So we always reserve the Cutters Den, and we have it catered, and we didn't do it last year because of funding, but this year we have funding, so we're going to do it again. So we always invite our employers along and our members along, and their employees usually, because a lot of our members are like the CEOs and stuff. So they invite their employees along, and they get tickets and bring their kids and watch the game, and then there's usually fireworks afterwards. So
nice.
So you have to come to that. You'll hear more about it now that you're a member.
I'll get that on the calendar for sure.
Steph will tell us all about it, and like I said, I'll probably talk about it during the board meeting, and I'll sound important like I came up with it, and we can all be like, "Great idea, thanks." But nope, looking forward to having you. So again, thanks for that, and glad to hear you're a member also. So look forward to having you on KWPA.
No, I'm looking forward to getting involved.
Perfect. Well, you can be the next chairman. It's coming up soon. So
oh my, you're scaring me. You spoke so highly of it.
Oh, it's great. We'll get you to be the vice chair first. One nice thing Nick told me when I joined, he said the best part is the pay is exactly the same whether you're the vice chair or the chairman. So it doesn't really matter what you do. The pay is the same. I was like, oh, great story, Nick. Oh man,
Brian, thanks
so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Until next time, folks.
Don't forget to support our buddies at Green Street Joinery by subscribing to the American Craftman podcast and their new YouTube channel, Today's Craftsman. Both links in the description of today's podcast.